Welcome to Beer with Nat's first bonus episode. Lotte Peplow, who you heard from in episode 8, is so passionate about beer and food pairing, she invited me to her home and prepared 3 different pairings for us to share. Lotte talks us through each dish, a starter, main, and dessert, and explains why each recipe works well with the recommended beer. She also provides a whole host of resources, recipes, and further reading, which I've linked to on beerwithnat.com. Before we dive into the pairings, though, I thought I should quickly talk us through the principles of beer and food pairing for those who aren't familiar. The idea of making a beer and food match has to do with how the flavors of the food and the beer interact with each other. The first step is always to compare the strength or intensity of the food and beer options. You want them to stand up to each other, but not overpower each other. So you wouldn't pair a light fish dish with an imperial stout in the same way that you wouldn't match a light and summery blonde ale with a powerful and pungent cheese. Intensity of beer can be determined by how roasted the malts are, the level of bitterness, or if there's any acidity present, like in a sour or wild ale, for example. A food's intensity is determined by the ingredients, how they're cooked, any sauces or marinades used. You get the idea. Once you've matched on strength, you then determine the flavor interaction. Do you want the beer to complement, contrast, or cut through the food? With complement, there will be similar flavors that resonate in both the food and beer. The classic example here is a chocolate stout with a rich chocolate cake. Contrast helps play the flavors of the food and the beer against each other. Sweet and sour, anyone? This is summed up nicely by a traditional pairing in Belgian cuisine, pairing a sharply acidic Belgian style, like a goose, with steamed mussels, or better yet, steaming the mussels in the goose, which makes the mussels taste sweeter by comparison. Finally, cutting is an important power of beer. Carbonation and alcohol help to cut through fatty foods, while malt helps to balance out spice. We encounter a couple examples of this in the pairings Lotte prepared. While there is certainly more to be said, that's enough to get you started, as the best way to learn about food and beer pairing is to put it into practice, and to see what combinations you enjoy. Be sure to play around a bit too. As you're about to hear, we try our first dish with 2 different beer styles to see which pairing we prefer. To give you a few ideas of how to get started, listen in to some of Lotte's favorites. Then head to beerwithnat.com for the recipes and plenty more resources. Finally, a caution. Don't listen to this episode when you're hungry. You've been warned. Time for Lotte to take it away.
Beer and food is absolutely the best thing ever, I think. I drink beer with food all the time and I cook with it. Sometimes I put beer in the food, or else I just pair my beer with my food as well. And I've taken inspiration from Adam Dooley, who's a Brewers Association executive chef. He's like the world-renowned expert on beer and food pairing. So he's written a book called The Beer Pantry. So a lot of these recipes I'm using, in fact, this one we're just about to taste, comes from his book.
Okay.
So it's great. There's lots of lovely photos and it's very easy to follow, so that helps as well. And so we're going to dive straight in with this first one, which it's a salad, and it's got some Cavolo Nero, some baby jam lettuce, cucumber, tomato, and goat's cheese. And we're going to pair this with Sierra Nevada Tropical Torpedo.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why we're having an IPA is to show that it goes very well with salad. It's not just something you're going to stick with a burger, because it's going to hopefully hit the bitterness of that Cavolo Nero, which has got a kind of sharp, earthy bitterness. So it's going to pick up on that, and it's going to cut through the fat of the goat's cheese. We've got little deep fried goat's cheese balls here, and so that'll lift the fat off the palate, hopefully, with the carbonation. So we'll just get stuck in. Nat's going to have a little try. So cheers. There we go.
Oh, that
Lovely,
is nice.
fruity,
because I
tropical.
find the torpedo to be a little bit too bitter for me, a little bit too aggressive. So having those tropical fruit notes kind of rounds it out a little bit.
And so that should go very well.
And
Try
I
that
do
with our food.
I do love Cavolo Nero, or black kale, as we call it in the States.
So this has also got a honey and mustard balsamic vinegar dressing on it, which is going to add some sweet notes, and so that's going to pick up on the tropical fruit notes from the Sierra Nevada Tropical Torpedo.
Yeah,
a great mouthful.
The dressing with it is perfect. Oh, I really like that. And you can tell, I'm excited to go back and have another sip of it, actually, to have that carbonation help to scrub off the goat's cheese, because it is quite a heavy cheese, and then those bubbles in there and the bitterness will tend to help
you can
lift
still
the
taste
goat's cheese off the palate.
So you can still taste that Cavolo Nero after you've tasted the beer, and you can taste the beer as well. So you can taste all the layers of the dish and all the layers of the beer, which is absolutely perfect. That's what we want. We don't want one to overpower the other one.
Yeah, that's really nice.
So I thought it was quite an interesting combination to put an IPA with a salad because it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah,
but I think
true.
in this case, because it's got slightly sweet notes, that it's not a complete and utter hot bomb, that it works really well. And it's a very nice little dish, a little combo.
Yeah,
So-
like this is an ideal for me. I'm just imagining being back home in the States, California, summertime. This would be the perfect treat.
Tropical torpedo IPA
on a
and some
Saturday
nice
afternoon.
goat's cheese salad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Delicious.
I'm gonna eat a little more of this.
Yeah,
It's really
okay,
tasty.
keep going. So we're now going to try some Reuben's Goza. Just open your can here. Lovely noise all over Nat's microphone. Sorry, Nat.
That's all right, we'll dry it off. It'll still work.
We're going to try this award-winning Goza from Seattle and see how well it goes with this salad of Cavolo Nero, iceberg lettuce, tomato, cucumber and goat's cheese, which has been rolled in breadcrumb and deep fried. And the dressing is a balsamic vinegar, honey and mustard combo. And what the Goza hopefully will do is it'll contrast the sweetness of the dressing because it's going to have that soury, zingy, tarty, lemony sort of bite. So it will offset that sweet dressing, but also lift the fat off one's palate of the cheese, and contrast against the bitterness of the greens. So, quick mouth bit of greens.
Yeah, for me, it really brings out the herbs that are in here. There's mint.
Oh yeah, there's lots of herbs. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So there's mint, and is there parsley as well? Yeah, so those really stood out as the keynotes. And I don't know if it's because they tend to be picked up by the salinity or whether it's the tartness of the beer. But that stood out, and it almost made the goat's cheese a little bit more tart to me. So it's a completely different experience of the food based on the beer that we're trying it with.
It's far more kind of refreshing and easy drinking, isn't it?
I do really like this Goza. I've not had it before. I've
it's lovely.
I've always wanted to try Reuben's beers.
It's won so many awards. It's really nice. Yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah,
they make
a
a
really
whole
good one. It's really
stack
refreshing.
of other great beers, but it's got that lovely lemony note to it, hasn't it? And just a touch of salinity as well. And it's that little touch of acid that cuts through that fat, that goat's cheese fat.
Yeah, I
Makes it
almost
really
wonder
nice.
if it was more citrusy dressing, then maybe these two would pair in a whole nother level, because then you've got that lemony freshness that comes from the Goza, that maybe if it was a sort of lemony vinaigrette or a lemon and herb vinaigrette, that you'd have a little bit more complementary notes
Probably.
between the two as well.
Yeah,
That then picks up
probably.
the herbs, picks up the goat's cheese. But yeah, it's amazing that just the beer you choose to have with your food can make your experience of the food so different.
Exactly.
And I guess that's sort of what we're trying to hammer home in the whole idea of food and beer pairing, that it shouldn't be an afterthought, and that it can elevate your experience of the food and your experience of the beer as well.
And also, there's no one size fits all. You know, somebody might like their IPA with a salad, and other people might like a Goza with a salad. It's completely and utterly up to you. Everybody's, as you know, taste is personal. We all have different ways of enjoying beer and different ways of enjoying food. So you can say, I like this, I like that, the Goza, but I don't like the IPA, and vice versa. And there's no right or wrong to it.
Yeah,
just
it's a
what
great
people
point.
like.
Maybe you try something at a beer and food pairing dinner and you're like, ooh, that wasn't the match for me. Well, that's okay. Try a different one. Don't give up on it completely just because you maybe don't like the style that was paired. Try it with a different style instead. Try it with something you do like, or find the different flavors that work together.
And that's why experimenting is just such good news, because you can just see what works and see what
If you
like.
want to see what Lottie's up to, just check her Instagram. There's loads of different beer and food pairing photos of recipes that she's attempted. So clearly there are many great resources to go to as well if you don't know where to start.
Oh, absolutely.
You can look at Adam's book. There's Melissa Cole has a new book as well.
Brewers Association have a beer and food companions guide, and they have all sorts of. They actually have a professional beer and food course you can download from craftbeer.com free of charge. It's really, really good. All the techniques and all the basics and all the kind of science of pairing and suggestions for what to pair and how to do a pairing dinner, all that kind of thing is excellent.
Okay,
so I
perfect.
use those resources a lot myself in my work and in my experiments. And
Your at-home experiments. All right, let's move on to the next course.
Okay.
Course number 2.
Course number 2, we've got meatballs in a tomato sauce paired with Cigar City Maduro Brown Ale, which is absolutely banging.
It is heavenly.
New to the UK. It's only just been brought in by James Clay, so it's literally hot off the boat. And managed to nab a can, and I think it's going to be really sensational.
It smells amazing.
Oh.
I remember the first time I had this beer, I can't remember the name of the place, but it was sort of this new food hall that had just opened in Brooklyn. And I was wandering around. There were some bars I wanted to check out in the area. I went to Three's Brewing for the first time. I went to a bar called Gloria de Baldi's, and to this food hall that I'll have to look up. And they had this brown ale, and I just remember most people think brown ales are quite boring, you know? It's kind of an overlooked style.
Shame.
And I had this one, and it has just stuck in my memory since then, so I'm really pleased to be having it again.
This has won loads of awards as well. This one,
Yeah, I can
a
imagine.
gold medal at Great American Beer Festival just the
Wow.
other day. But try it with the meatball and the tomato sauce. Because there's a reason why I've matched them together. Because there's beautiful, lovely,
all that
malty,
chocolate,
caramelly
that malt.
sweetness,
Yeah.
but not roasted or toasted.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. There's no roast, there's no real bitterness here.
That's going to go. It's going to match. There's
the
some heat in this.
sweetness.
There is some heat in this tomato sauce, Nat. Be
Right.
careful.
Hopefully the malt should calm it down.
Put quite a little chili
Since
in
I'm
there,
not very
afraid.
good with spicy things.
The lovely malty sweetness is going to calm that chili in the tomato sauce, and it's also going to complement all the flavours of the meatball, because there's a lot in there. Porcini mushroom, parmesan, there's loads of herbs, there's loads of garlic. It's big, bold, intense flavour. So I wanted a beer that could stand up to all the flavours in the meat.
Yeah, that's really heavenly.
And match it. And also work against the acidity of the tomato-ness and the heat of the chili, and hopefully it does the trick.
Yeah, that's a great pairing. I think because you've got the sweetness of the pork that parallels nicely with the sweetness of the malt. Then also it does help to calm down the spice, but then there's those earthy notes from the mushroom that work well with the characteristics of the brown ale as well. That is really tasty.
That is good, isn't it? Yummy. Wow.
Quite the chef, Lottie.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
Well, I guess we thank Adam for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Oh my goodness, that's great. And yeah, good memories with this beer, and now new lovely memories with this beer as well. Yeah, that's a really good
Very
one.
nice. And it's only 5.5%, so it's not like it's a blow your socks off sort of beer. You know, sometimes these dark or stouts can be massively high ABV, and you don't necessarily want a huge ABV one when you're just having a
An
low-key
easy dinner. Yeah.
But I mean, you could actually put this in the food as well if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
With stouts and porters, you can actually make sauces, add them to the gravy. And whenever I'm cooking something like gravy or casserole or stew, always put beer in it.
Just throw a splash in.
Yeah.
And so what do you want to be careful with in cooking with beer? You don't want it to be too bitter.
Oh, you don't want to be no. IPA,
But-
you can't cook with IPA really, because if you just cook it, it just enhances the bitterness, and then it's not very nice.
But a more malt-driven beer
Yeah.
adds the lovely malty sweetness to your food.
And then, yes, the alcohol's going to be cooked off, but it's not going to be bitter. It's going to just leave the lovely kind of sweet, rich, malty, toasty, roasty notes, which will be delicious in a long, slow cooked casserole, for example.
Yeah, with a variety of different foods.
Yeah. Okay, so I've just opened a can of Left Hand Brewing Nitro Milk Stout, and I'm going to give it the hard pour. Try to anyway. For that hard pour.
Yeah.
That should create that beautiful thick.
Yep. I can see all of the
yes,
bubbles.
it's coming. Yeah, cascading. Look at that. It's going to take its time though. Goes
Oh,
on for me.
how fun.
Oh, that is a lovely noise. Okay.
So essentially what you have to do with this one, it is a beer on nitro, which means it's got a different type of gas in it. Create these smaller bubbles, give it a nice velvety texture. And so there's a widget inside the can that will release the nitrogen, or the nitrogen carbon dioxide blend, as you open the can. And so what Lottie was saying about the hard pour is if you flip the can upside down fully, then it allows it to, for all of those nitrogen bubbles to come out of the beer and create this beautiful head, kind of looking like a Guinness. Very well done, Lottie.
Thank you. Left Hand Brewing from Longmont in Colorado. And I think they were pretty close to being the first ones to pioneer this nitro widget technology back in about 2011. And this beer is a absolutely beautiful example of the style. Goes really, really well with chocolatey type things. It's full of lovely chocolate mocha, rich, toasty, malty notes, and velvet smooth when you drink it.
It's just so
It's
smooth.
like silk going down your throat, isn't it?
Yeah, so soft, so easy drinking. And there is definitely a roasted character to it, but it's not aggressive in any way.
It's
you
balanced.
get that
It's
sort of
beautifully
nice
balanced.
coffee note, and then you get a touch of sweetness, the softness from the lactose that makes it a milk stout.
Now we're going to pair this with a chocolate devil's food cake, again from Adam Dooley, his book The Beer Pantry. and it's a very, very rich, chalky, delicious, hopefully going to be delicious cake. And Nat is going to give it a try here, but you should find that the lovely chocolatey, coffee, smooth notes in the left-hand milk strap combine beautifully with what's in the cake. So what do you think? Let me just dig in. Got a shed load of chocolate in it, I have to say.
I am a chocolate addict, so I'm totally happy with this. Oh, I really like the combination.
Oh, it is chocolate on chocolate, but it's complementing.
But also,
so it's not trying to fight against the chocolate. It's adding and enhancing the whole chocolate experience, basically.
But there's that touch of roasted character in the beer that helps to lift it a little bit. So instead of adding more sweetness, really, to the dish, then it kind of cleanses the palate and makes me ready for more chocolate in my cake. So that's perfect. And
that's what we want from a good pairing. We want this nice complementary nature, so that you just think, oh, I've got to have more, I've got to have more, I've got to have more.
Exactly. You have the sip of one, then a bite of the other, and then you realise you just want to keep going back for more.
Because if you just had cake, your mouth would be so full of coated with chocolate and fat and just feeling a bit kind of,
overwhelmed with the sweetness
cloying,
as well.
And too sweet. But because you've got the beer to cut all that, it's working out tremendously, and they're perfect partners in my opinion anyway. So
that
I
really
think
is
these go really nicely together.
A lovely match. And I do think there is something to it about it being the nitro version, that it makes it even smoother and it complements the cake as well even more.
But it's amazing to think what beer can do to dishes though, and recipes like this and sweet things and savoury things. It's incredible. It's just a whole new revelation, and I'm hoping that people will get onto it more and it'll open their eyes, and all the movement behind beer and food, and more recipe books coming out, and more bars and restaurants and on-trade outlets hopefully doing beer and food. The message is slowly getting across.
Do you think it is consumers asking for it, or it's restaurants and bars and pubs innovating by offering it, or does it need to be a mix of both?
It needs to be a mix of both. It's always a problem. Profit drivers, it's always a problem. Beer is seen to be less profitable than wine, and that's a barrier. That's a barrier for sure. Glasses, it needs to be in the right glassware. There's no good having a pint of something on a table with a meal. I mean, that's
a great point.
Crazy.
Present it in a nice wine glass, make it look like it belongs on the dinner table.
Exactly. Small pours. Staff training, staff have got to know what they're talking about, and why a customer should order a beer with a dessert, for example. And that's really, really crucial. So there's a few headwinds, shall we say, in the pipeline, but it's all about education, really. It's all about informing the trade and the consumer what there is and what the options are, and why they should choose beer, and why it goes so well with food, and just opening their eyes a bit more. And we'll get there one day.
Well, you just have more people around to your house in the meantime to test what you've created, and you'll create some more believers.
Yep, absolutely. Everyone's welcome.
Thanks, Lottie. So, how hungry are you? And what did you think of the first bonus episode? If you enjoyed it and would like to hear more episodes like this, do let me know. It's always nice to give people a platform to share their passions. And if there are any beery topics you'd like to learn more about, don't hesitate to be in touch. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time with our regularly scheduled programming. Chat soon!